Okay, for our second lesson, I'll be discussing the general concepts and theories of police photography. So, automatic, madedefine natin what is photography, the forensic and police photography. Ma-enumerate din natin and then malalaman natin kung ano ba yung special uses of photography and its objective and the importance of photography to police work. So first, let us define photography. It says that it is an art or science which deals with the reproduction of images through the action of light upon sensitized materials with the aid of camera and accessories and the chemical process involved therein. So, dito muna tayo sa first part ng definition niya. Photography is an art or science. So, hindi tayo nakadepende lang or hindi natin sinasabi that photography is a pure art. Hindi natin sinasabi that photography is pure science, but the combination of these two. Photography is an art or science. Bakit? First, sa art. Photography is an art of taking pictures. So, alam naman natin na taking picture requires a lot of skill. Ito po ay pinag-aaralan, di ba? And it is, sabi ko kanina, a work of art between the photographer and the camera that he uses. So, kaya tayo nakaka-create ng magandang photograph kasi nakadepende tayo dun sa skill ng photographer. And also, the product itself, di ba yung mga pictures natin or yung mga photographs natin sa mga museum or galleries, di ba considered siya as art? Yung mga art galleries natin, pinopost dun yung mga winning pictures like this two na nagpapatunay kung gaano kagaling or gaano ka-skillful yung ating mga photographer. So, itong mga photograph na to is a creation or a product of skill ng photographer and his imagination. So, that is why photograph is considered as, or the photography is considered as an art. On the other side, photography can be considered as a science. So, automatic naman. Lalo na dun sa mga na-discuss ko nung una sa inyo about the history, nakita nyo kung ano yung mga iba't ibang klase ng chemical processing, kung paano tayo makapag-create or kung paano tayo makapag-develop ng photograph. So, meron tayong mga procedures, di ba? May mga chemicals tayong ginagamit which has relation, of course, to science. So, that is why photography is also a science. So, merong scientific method, merong procedures na involved, same as with the skill of the photographer para makapag-create tayo ng isang photograph. So, now, it is an art or science which deals with the reproduction of images. So, photography daw, of course, iyan ay, ang focus niyan is para makapag-create ka or makapag-reproduce ka ng image through the action of light. Hindi ka makakapag-create ng image, di ba? Yung sa discovery ni, sino ba yung kaunahan? Discovery ni Professor J. Scotch. Na meron daw kinalaman si light kung paano tayo makakaka-create ng image, paano tayo makakapag-record ng image. Same as with Thomas Wedgwood. Napatunayan niya that through the action of light, possible tayo makapag-record ng image. Again, the reproduction of images through the action of light. So, kailangan natin ng light. Kanino siya nagre-react or kanino siya magre-register? Dun sa sensitized materials na meron tayo, which is the film, di ba? O kaya naman dun sa mga sinauna pa, sensitized materials such as the plate, na kung saan coated with ganito, di ba? Coated with the chemicals na naimbento nito. So, with the aid of camera, hindi ka makaka-capture, hindi ka makakapag-reproduce ng isang image kung wala kang gagamitin na camera. Si camera, yung itututok mo kay subject, and then papasok si light sa lens, and then magre-react kay sensitized materials, and that's it. You have the image, you have the photograph. And accessories, kung gusto nyo madaling makabisado yung definition niya, gamitin nyo lang tong as real SCAC So, nakita ko lang din yun sa isang review na books na kung saan nakakompile dun yung reviewer sa photography. So, yan yung kanilang technique kung paano makabisado itong photography definition. So, A stands for it is an art. S, science, which deals with the reproduction of images, diba? Through the reproduction of images through the action of light upon sensitized materials with the aid of camera and accessories and the chemical process involved therein. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung mga naka-letters na binigyan ng emphasis dyan, yan yung importante na mga component or yung important technical na terms na related sa photography, kung paano natin ma-define si photography. Pasok si camera, di ba? Pasok si light, pasok si sensitized materials, pasok si accessories, pasok si art and science, and the reproduction of images. So, ito siya para mas mabilis. It is an art or science which deals with the reproduction of images through the action of light upon sensitized materials with the aid of the camera and accessories and the chemical process involved therein. So, gamitin nyo lang yan para hindi, matandaan nyo or maalala nyo yung definition ni photography. So, next, review lang. Photography is derived, na-discuss yun na to sa inyo, from the Greek words photos, which means light, and graphians, meaning to draw, or simply, we can say that photography is to draw with light. So, the word was first used by the scientist surgeon F. Herschel in 1839. It is a method, again, of recording images by the action of light or related radiation or on a sensitive material. So, mas pinaikling definition. So, yun din yung tinutumbok niya. So, that is the definition of photography. Okay, let us define forensic. It is derived from the word forum, which means a place for legal debate. So, kung marinig nyo si term ng forensic, yan po ay may kinalaman sa legal matters, di ba? Kung kung isasama natin siya dun sa tinatawag nating forensic photography, ito yung pinanggalingan niya. Bakit forensic photography? Kasi nga sabi nga natin, when we talk about forensic, it is relating or denoting the application of scientific method and techniques to the investigation of crime. So, which means place for legal debate. So, dito tayo. Forensic photography, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. It is a field covering the legal application of photography in criminal jurisprudence and in criminal investigation. So, now, dahil ang meaning ng forensic is means place for legal debate, si photograph ngayon is meron na siyang legal application in criminal jurisprudence and criminal investigation. So, it is used in court of law, of course, yung criminalistics na tinatawag natin. Aside from the photography, marami naman tayong under ng criminalistics. So, isa lang si photography dyan. So, forensic photography, meron itong kinalaman for the preparation of photographic evidences that is needed by prosecutors and courts of law. So, that is forensic photography. Those photographs na meron na siyang relation or meron na siyang legal application or yung mismong ginagamit natin sa court of law as an evidence. Next is the police photography. So, nakikita nyo yung kaibahan niya. While si police photography, it is a science which deals with the study of principles of photography and the presentation of photographic evidence and its application to police work. So, limited lang siya dun sa act of taking evidence using the camera. So, pinag-uusapan natin dito is the crime scene photography. So, kung saan minsan, di ba, kailangan natin si photograph or yung kailangan natin si camera for the reproduction and for the preservation of the crime scene itself. So, on the part of the photographer, di ba crucial part para sa kanya yung bagay na to. It is a crucial role for the criminal investigator kasi ano ba yung use ng photograph sa police work? Di ba siya yung nagpe-preserve ng crime scene itself? Kasi yung crime scene naman yan, hindi yan habang buhay nandyan lang. Lilinisin at lilinisin yan, mabubura at mabubura yung mga ebidensya na nandyan sa scene or the scene of the crime na meron ka. So, dahil meron tayong police photography, yung use ng photography sa police work, sila yung nagka-capture ng scene itself para magamit natin for future use, lalo na sa investigation. So yun yung kaibahan niya. While sa forensic, babalik tayo dun sa kanina. Meron na siyang legal application or gagamitin natin siya for criminal jurisprudence or ipapresent na natin si photograph or yung photograph as an evidence sa court of law. While dito sa forensic, sa police photography, we are solely dependent dun sa police photographer na ika-capture si crime scene and then gagamitin for investigation. So that is the forensic photography and the police photography. Okay, next. For the objectives of photography, meron tayong tatlo. First is to produce a pictorial record of the crime scene. Sabi ko nga kanina, ang use ng pag-take ng photograph sa isang crime scene, which is one of the police work, is para makapag-create tayo or para makapag-record tayo ng crime scene. Sabi ko nga kanina, hindi yan permanente. For example, ito, hindi habang panahon, habang tumatakbo yung kaso, yung crime scene nakapreserve dun sa area na yan. Tatanggalin at tatanggalin yan. So, you have to take photographs para magkaroon ka ng permanent record. Diba? Nang sa ganon, kahit tanggalin na si body, diba? Kahit tanggalin na yung mga ebidensya dyan, meron kang record na nakuha through taking photograph. So now, na-reproduce mo si image, na-print mo, meron ka ng copy of the crime scene through the photograph that you have taken. So, that is the first objective, para makapag-produce tayo ng pictorial record of the crime scene. Para anytime na gusto mong i-check ulit, makikita mo kung ano ba yung actual look ng crime scene. So, hindi mo na kailangan balik-balikan para alalahanin pa doon. Next, to help in keeping the police officer's memory in remembering accurately as to where the location of physical evidence are found. So, kung kanina doon tayo sa general, the crime scene as a whole, para magkaroon tayo ng record. So, now, we are pertaining to the physical evidences. Hindi natin, sa dinami-dami ng physical evidences dyan, hindi mo ma-remember ng ganun ka-accurate, diba, kung saan siya nakaposisyon. At kung ano yung mga klaseng evidences na meron tayo, diba? Sabi dyan, in keeping the police officer's memory. So, through the use of photograph, pag nakita ni police or ni investigator, yung photograph na yun, marerefresh yung kanyang memory. At maaalala niya kung ano ba yung mismong setting or setup sa crime scene. So, kung wala tayong photograph, lalo na mamaya, yung mga ating mga police officers is may katandaan na hindi natin maiiwasan na malilimutan nila yung eksaktong place, diba? Eksaktong itsura, and then yung eksaktong crime scene na nakita nila. So, that is why, napakalaking tulong ng photography sa police work. Again, to help in keeping the police officer's memory in remembering accurately as to where the location of physical evidences are found. So, tulad yan, si Barel, andito. Makikita mo na malapit siya sa kamay nung dead body. So, hindi siya ganun, for example, inalala lang basta ni police investigator yung crime scene. So, sa pagkaalala niya, oo, nakita niya yung barel sa tabi ni dead body, pero yung pagkakaalala mo, siguro mga 1 dipa or 2 dipa yung lapit niya. But, kung meron kang photograph na nakuha, makikita mo kung gaano ka-accurate yung lapit nila. Or kahit naman hindi ganun ka-accurate, makita mo man lang yung itsura niya, kung ano talaga yung setup sa crime scene. Same as with those other evidences na meron tayo. So, that is The number 2, the last one is to help in securing and obtaining confession, description, ito yung pinaka common, deposition, and information relating to the case. So, lahat naman ng record na meron ka, diba, through the use of camera, so meron kang photograph, pwede mo yung magamit doon sa any cases na hinahawakan mo. For example, confession, diba? Under surveillance yung tao pero meron kang record na hawak na eto ka, nakita kita ng oras na to, na-picturean pa kita. Pwede mo na yung magamit para maharang mo na yung tao, hindi na siya makapagdahilan pa. So, sample lang yun. Pinaka minor na example lang yan dun sa bagay na to. Example, description. Meron na tayong mugshot, di ba? Meron ka ng records or files of ng photographs ng mga wanted person, di ba? O kaya yung mga person na naikulong na. So, mas madali mo nang mahagilap yung mga records nila, di ba? Yung photographs nila kapag kailanganin mo in the future. So, that is the number 3. Next, value of photographic evidence. So, ano ba yung value ng photograph as an evidence na pwede natin magamit sa course of law? Kung gaano ba siya kahalaga? First, photograph is reasonably accurate and detailed. They are also objective and permanent. Sabi ko nga kanina, once na na-take mo na yung photograph, yun na yung mismong itsura niya sa crime scene. At hindi mo na yun mababago kahit na anong isip pa ang gawin mo, the photograph itself is accurate in detail. Kung ano yung nakita mo dun sa setup or dun sa crime scene, yun mismo yung nakuhanan mo. At hindi mo pwedeng questionin yun. Not unless edited yung picture. Pero dun tayo sa totoo na hindi naman siguro tayo dadating sa punto na ganon. Pero dun tayo sa example na mababaw lang na kung saan ang photograph, once na take mo na yan, accurate and detail yan. And they are also objective and permanent. So, objective meaning to say, kahit hindi ka na magsalita, what you see is what you get. Hindi mo na kailangan pang magbigay ng marami pang palabo kasi kung ano yung nakikita mo, yun na yung ibig sabihin nun. Next, photograph, clarify, and confirm. Sabi ko nga kanina, hindi porket present ka sa crime scene, ikaw si investigator, ikaw mismo yung nag-photograph, maaalala mo yung mga bagay na nakita mo. So, no. Hindi ganun, pera na lang kung meron tayong matalas na isip, pero kahit na merong ganun, merong mga bagay na makakalimutan ka. And then, through the use of photograph, by means of photograph, pwede mo siyang magamit to clarify and confirm kung tama ba yung naalala mo, kung tama ba yung naisip mo with regards to the evidences and the crime scene na nakita mo. Next, photographs are most descriptive than words. So, sabi ko nga kanina, kahit wala kang sabihin, basta nakita mo si photograph, maiintindihan mo na agad kung ano yung setup. Pero syempre, hindi naman pwedeng mag-rely tayo sa photograph itself. Kailangan mo din yung testimony ng iba, or kailangan mo rin syempre na ma-experience on hand kung ano ba yung meron doon sa crime. But ang sinasabi lang dito, ang photograph, malaki na yung factor para maintindihan na natin kung ano ba yung meron sa crime scene. Minsan, mahirap pang i-describe sa word kung ano yung nangyari. Pinicturean si dead body, ganito po, luwa na yung ganito, luwa na yung ganyan. Kung picturean mo na lang at pakita mo kay judge, hindi ka pa nahirapan kasi kung ano yung makita mo nga, that is what you get. At yun yung maiintindihan mo at mauunawaan mo. Next, photograph has no faulty memory. Parang yung kanina, accurate in detail. Kaya naman, kung ano yung napicturean mo, yun na yun. Not unless edited nga siya. So, time does not alter the visual record of the facts. So, kahit man lumipas na yung taon, tumatakbo pa rin yung kaso, kung ano yung photograph na nakuhanan mo, hindi naman bababago nun kung ano yung nangyari noon. Okay, next. Photograph is a permanent record which is always available. So, once nga na yung physical evidences mo, kinuhanan mo na ng photograph, so you have now the record. And that record is permanent. And that record, you can use it whenever you want it to use, diba? Kung gagamitin mo siya for investigation or for reviewing the physical evidences na meron ka, para pag-aralan yung takbo ng kaso mo. So, hindi mo kailangan balik-balikan lagi kung nakanino ng custody yung physical evidences na nakuha mo. So, once you have the photograph as your record, as your copy, diba, pwede mo siyang magamit sa pag-iimbestiga, sa pagre-review ng case, same as we dun sa discuss natin kanina na pwede mo siyang magamit, diba? Always available siya, especially during court presentation. So, kaysa nga naman na ang dalin mo is the physical evidence itself, na minsan malaki, di ba? Na minsan hindi naman advisable na dalin sa korte para lang mapakita kay judge. For example, the dead bodies or the cadaver na sinasabi natin na para lang mapatunayan kay judge na ito po, 27 po na wounds, stab wounds po yung natamo ng ating biktima. So, para lang mapakita mo kay judge, dadalhin mo yung patay sa court. So, baka magsialisan sila doon lahat, di ba? So, once you have the photograph, pinicturean mo yung lahat ng wounds ni victim, so, ayun na yung pwede mong ipakita kay judge. So, once you have nga that kind of a record that is always available, pwede mo siyang magamit as a proof during court presentation, as an evidence during court presentation. At again, hindi mo na kailangan pang dalhin yung mga physical evidences, lalo na't hindi naman advisable na dalhin pa sa court. At pwede nang yung photograph itself, yung ipakita mo at i-present mo during court exhibit or presentation. What I am trying to say is that yung photograph kasi, once na na-take mo na yan, lagi yung available at pwede mo pang ma-reproduce as much as you want. Next, photographic evidence may be irrefutable. So, hindi mo yan mababago kung ano yung photograph, di ba, na tinake mo, hindi mo yan madi-disprove or hindi mo madedenay kung ano yung nakuhanan mo. Not unless iyan ay edited again. Pero kung iyan ay mismong actual scene na pinicturean mo, yan yung actual look ng physical evidences na pinicturean mo, no one can say na yan ay mali or may mali dyan sa picture mo, bakit ganyan. So what? Kasi yun talaga yung napicturean mo during the crime scene processing. So again, photographic evidences may be irrefutable or mahirap na yang i-disapprove or mahirap na yang hindi paniwalaan once na nandyan na. Again, not unless na iyan ay malaman natin na edited. Next, effective evidential photographs influence judge. So, photographs have a greater influence than oral testimony. So, minsan, di ba, ang tao, hindi kapani-paniwala yung mga sinasabi o madami ng tao na bihasa yung pagsisinungaling. And one way, para mas ma-convince natin yung mga judge natin na eto talaga yung hinahain nating ebidensya is through the use of evidential photographs. Mas malakas kasi yung dating nung ebidensya mo na nakuhanan mismo ng photograph na nagpapatunay na ito talaga yung nangyari. Ito po yung nangyari sa crime scene, ito po yung itsura ng bangkay, ito po yung mga physical evidences na present doon. Not unlike na sinasabi mo lang sa kanya, hindi niya na i-imagine, hindi niya na picture out kung ano ba yung pinagsasabi mo. So, meron ka ngayong photograph na pwede niyang makita, na pwede niyang ma-review, na pwede niyang na-examine ng sarili niya. So, much better and much nakakatulong yon or mas makakatulong yon or mas nakaka-influensya yun sa judge, kung paano niya i-assess o kung paano niya bibigyan ng hatol yung mga evidences na hinain mo sa kanya. Last is photographic evidence that fairly represents its subject matter has probative power. So, ibig sabihin, the photographic evidence o yung photograph mo, meron niyang power to prove something. Siyempre, ito yung sinasabi mo, so ito yung patunay ko, meron akong photograph. So, what you are actually proving, pwede mo siyang masuportahan through the use of photographic evidence na nakuhanan mo. So, diba, sa mga legal controversies, one way to prove your side or one way to to present your evidence is the photograph itself, di ba? Isa tong malaking factor kung meron kang patunay or kung meron kang photographic evidences para mapatunayan mo yung side mo. And sabi ko nga kanina, it has a probative power. Meron ang photograph ay may kakayahan to prove your points, to prove your stand, kung ano man yung pinaglalaban mo, or kung ano man yung gusto mong i-implicate, or kung ano man yung gusto mong i-discuss or i-present sa korte para mag-serve as an evidence sa crime scene. Dun sa case na hinahawakan mo, I mean. Okay, next, the uses of photography. First is for the identification. So, magagamit natin sa photography to identify a suspect, diba? The victim or place where the crime was committed or the weapons used in the crime scene. Diba? Once you have the photograph, so possible na magamit siya talaga to identify who is the suspect, lalo na kung siya is known na. O lalo na kung siya is kasama lang naman pala sa wanted person, edi hanapin mo dun sa files or records sa police or dun sa police station, sa presinto. For the victim, di ba? Yung kanyang mga wounds, yung kanyang mga pasa, di ba? Possible na pwede yung picturean as a proof, or the victim itself, picturean mo para as a proof na ito yung victim, yung kanyang tsura. Or place, di ba? Kung saan nangyari or the event, ma-identify mo kung saan nangyari. Picturean mo, malalaman mo kung saan nangyari. Or what was the crime committed through the photographs of the weapons, di ba? Once naman na nakita mo or na-picturean mo sa crime scene, ma-picture out mo na din kung ano yung klaseng crime. Ma-identify mo na din kung ano yung klaseng krimen yung nangyari. So, identification. It is useful in personal identification as well as in the identification of missing person, di ba? Kapag naghahanap tayo ng mga missing person, nagpo-post sa presinto, same as we dun sa mga poste mismo, sa mga pader, sa municipality nyo na ito yung missing person. So, once you have the photograph, madali mo ma-identify kung sino ba yung nawawala at madali mo siyang maalala or makita in case na meron kang makita. So, in relation to police work, ang pinag-uusapan na natin dito is mugshot photography. So, a mugshot photography is taken on suspect for identification that shows the following angle. So, a mugshot photography, ginagawa na po yan sa mga nahuli natin or sa mga suspect natin. So, ito po yung mga angle niya, yung frontal whole body from head to foot with height scale behind. So, yung frontal half body, yung head to elbow, half body right side, head to elbow, half body left side, ganun din, head to elbow, left quarter view, right quarter view. Ito yung mga nakikita natin. Yan, yung mga naka-post minsan sa FB na ginagawa ng memes minsan, di ba? Or yung mga totally naka-post din naman talaga for identification purposes. So, ito yung mga suspect natin. Minsan sa mga balita nakikita natin yan. Ito yung mga right side, di ba? Half body right side, yung frontal whole body, di ba? So, yan po si mugshot photography. At nagagamit natin si photography as a means of identification. So, once na nakuha na mo na sila, meron ka ng record ng kanilang itsura. May record ka na for the future na use na pwede mong magamit sila. Next, record. A photograph of a suspect, witness, and victim or crime scene serves as a permanent record. In court proceeding, judges, fiscals, and defense lawyers have generally never visited the scene of the crime. So, photographs greatly facilitate them in interpreting the crime scene. It assists the court in understanding the case, and it records all things that an investigator may fail to notice. So, ito lang yung kanina, in general lang. The use of photograph is para magkaroon tayo ng record ng crime scene or ng suspect, di ba, ng witness or ng victim or yung crime scene na tinatawag natin. Kasi nga naman, si judge, hindi naman yan alam kung ano yung talagang meron sa crime scene. Si fiscal, si lawyers, iba ang meron ka lang na proof, di ba, is your physical evidences na meron kang nakuha. Kung ikaw is a police officer, o yung mga photographs na nakuhanan mo, or yung photographs na meron ka. Just to picture out or ma-imagine what is the look or the actual scene na nangyari dun sa crime scene. So, photographs greatly facilitate them nga in interpreting the crime scene. So, through the use of photograph as a record, maaalala nila kung ano ba or maiintindihan nila kung ano ba yung nangyari dun sa crime scene. So, it assists the court in understanding the case. So, lastly, it records all the things that an investigator may fail to notice. Sabi nga natin kanina, minsan sa crime scene, di ba, meron tayong na-overlook pa na evidence. So, once na nakuhanan mo siya, meron ka ng record, possible na upon reviewing your photographs, may makita ka pa doon na iba pang details na makakatulong sa iyo para mag-proceed or para makadagdag dun sa kaso mo as your evidence through the use of the photograph. Diba? Na-record mo. Hindi mo nakita mismo sa crime scene yun, pero na-picture mo. Or na-picturean mo. Next. Presentation. Photographs of question document, exhibits of handwriting, firearms identification, and fingerprints, footprints are used in court exhibits. They are presented in court for understanding of every part who has interest in the case. Etong mga to, di ba? The photograph, ginagamit yan to take the photograph of this kind of evidences para ma-present sa court. So, like the question document, usually hindi naman the document itself yung dinadala doon. So, for the reproduction, i-reprint mo, minsan kailangan pa yung enlargement ng question document itself. So, picturean mo para ma-enlarge natin, di ba? Exhibit of handwritings, napakaliit ng sulat o nasa isang maliit na papel. Pwede mo siyang picturean para mas ma-enlarge mo and then ma-present mo sa court at mas makita nila at maintindihan nila kung ano bang meron dun sa handwriting na pinagtatalunan natin. Same as with the firearm, di ba? Hindi mo naman pwedeng bitbitin yung markings o yung basyo na nakita mo at ipagdukdukan sa mukha ni judge na ito po yung marka niya o katulad po ng marka nito. So, hindi siya ganun kakomplikado dapat sa part ng judge. So, kung meron tayong photograph, again, i-take mo yung photograph nung firearms ng markings, kung yan man ay sa bullet o dun sa cartridge niya, and then i-enlarge mo yan as a means of photograph nga, pinicturean mo, and pwede mo ma-present sa court, and so on. So, ganun siya. Hindi lahat ng ebidensya na meron ka, physically, yan ay bibitbitin mo sa korte. The photograph itself, na pinicturean mo yung physical evidences na yan, pwede na yun, as a means, or that can be used for court presentation, or court exhibit. So, that is for the presentation. Next, similar lang din sa presentation is the substitution. So, evidence which cannot be brought to court for exhibit by any reason of size. Diba? Masyadong malaki, hindi mo naman dapat dalhin na sa korte yan. The weight, the height, and permanency of location will be substituted by a photograph. Baka mamaya, yung blood splatter niya dun na tumalsik sa dingding. Hindi mo naman pwedeng baklasin si dingding para lang ipakita yung mismong actual na talsik ng dugo nung namatay. Diba? The picture itself or the photograph itself, pwede mo siyang i-present sa korte as a substitute dun sa actual scene na nakuhanan mo. So, a photograph can be made as a representative nga of any evidence or document. It helps the expert witness in illustrating their findings. So, yun naman talaga yun. It also used to reproduce and copy documents. So, sabi ko nga kanina, magandang way na meron tayong photography or meron tayong camera that can be used para picturean yung mga ebidensya natin at magamit for the reproduction of it. And for the copy of it. Kasi, pwede mo yung ma-reproduce, di ba? Hindi naman yan hindi siya limited katulad ng physical evidence na isang piraso lang. So, hintayin mo pang matapos dun sa custody nito bago mo siya makita ulit. So, kung meron kang picture or ng photograph nito, pwede mo siyang ma-reproduce at pwede siyang ma-examine at the same time nung iba pang investigator. Or kaya naman, sabi nga natin kanina, it can be used to substitute those physical evidences na hindi mo siya madadala talaga sa korte. Diba? Yung isang best example dyan is yung bangkay nga. Paano mo madadala si bangkay doon? Baka mag-alisan yung tao. Diba? So, picturean mo siya, makita ni judge, eto yung sugat, diba? Eto yung tama sa ulo ng barel, eto yung saksak, sa ulo, sa paa, sa dibdib, sa hita, meron, hindi mo na kailangan dalhin pa sa court. And that picture or that photograph, is substitute, for the physical evidence itself. So, hindi mo na kailangan dalhin. You have the photograph as a substitute. Next, deciding factor. So, a good photograph can be the deciding factor in the conviction or acquittal of the suspect when no other form of real evidence is available. So, ito is pinaka last resort na, or hindi naman last resort, pero pinakamalaking factor din, yung photograph na meron ka, diba? For the deciding factor na tinatawag natin, lalo na kung wala kang other form of real evidence to present sa korte. Diba? It's either tong photograph na to makapag-convict dun sa kriminal o kaya naman walang sala sa kanya, diba? Depende na yun kung ano yung side mo, diba? Again, a good photograph can be the deciding factor. Depende na lang yan kung how real the photograph is, kasi ngayon laganap yung mga edited photographs natin. And same as with kapag wala ka talagang ebidensya pa na ibang maipipresent sa korte. Okay, last is the preservation of evidence. So, from the term itself, preserve. Nape-preserve natin si evidence or the crime scene itself dahil nakuha na natin siya ng photograph. Kasi naman, sabi ko nga kanina, hindi pwedeng hanggat tumatakbo yung kaso, nandun lang si crime scene. Yung bangkay, ililibing at ililibing yan. Yung bangkay, kailangan niyang dalhin sa laboratory to examine. Diba? Para ma-autopsy siya kung ano ba talaga yung nangyari, and so on. Same as with the physical evidences na nakakalat sa daan, kung ang krimen man ay nangyari sa daan, kailangan tanggalin yan. Once na-process na si crime scene. Once na-kolekta na si evidences, yung physical evidences, and once na picturean na siya as part of the process o yung pag-process ng crime scene. So, what I am trying to say na once na may picture ka na, na-preserve mo na kung ano yung itsura or yung actual look ng crime scene or ng physical evidences. Kasi, ang mga physical evidences na yan ay natural na magpapasa-pasa sa custody ng mga police, di ba? And then, yung necessary, yung handling ng ebidensya na yan, might cause the evidence to deteriorate or otherwise become altered. Hindi mo maiiwasan, di ba, sa kapabayaan minsan ng mga police officer na masira nila, o kaya naman may matanggal na part ng document, may matanggal na part ng ebidensya na nakuha mo, o kaya naman minsan hindi sinasadya, o minsan naman intentionally ginagawa para maligaw yung kaso. Minsan naman na-alter natin kung ano ba yung, eto dapat yung pinaka ibig sabihin ng ebidensya na to. Dapat ganito yung itsura niya. Pero naiba yung ibig sabihin ngayon kasi na-alter na. So now, dahil meron kang photograph na picturean mo yung actual scene, na picturean mo yung actual look, madali na sa'yo para malaman kung meron ba nagbago. Madali na sa'yo para malaman kung may na-alter ba dun sa physical evidence na hawak nyo. O kung meron mga na-deteriorate, na-mutilate, nasira, or whatsoever, madali na para sa'yo na malaman dahil meron kang actual na photograph na nakuhanan. Same as with that, dahil nga meron kang photograph, hindi mayat maya hahawakan mo sila. Hindi mayat maya yung physical evidences mismo yung dadali mo sa korte para ipakita, para i-present. So dahil nga meron kang picture, di ba? Pwede mo yung gamitin, photograph, pwede mo yung gamitin na substitute for court presentation. That could lead you or that could help you para ma-preserve lalo yung ebidensya na meron ka. So that is the preservation of evidence. Okay, the principles of photography. So medyo malawak to, but hindi naman dito natatapos yung discussion natin patungkol dito kasi pinaka-introduction lang to about on madami tayong question na masasagot dito. But bahapyaw lang. For example, how the film works. Ano ba yung contribution ng light para makakreate tayo ng photograph? Ano ba yung use ni lens? Ano ba yung use ni camera? And paano ba nagkakaroon ng chemical reaction o kung paano ba yung developing process natin para makakreate tayo ng photograph. So, simulan natin dito. A photograph is a mechanical result of photography. Alam naman natin yan. So, to produce a photograph, light is needed o yung tinatawag nating electromagnetic radiation. So, ano ba yung use ng light? The light will be the one yung magra-radiate or magra-reflect sa subject natin. Kasi nga naman, kung walang light, di ba, from the sources, di ba, it's either natural, from the sunlight, or artificial, galing sa ilaw ng bumbilya or what, or sa flash ng camera. So, kailangan natin yun para si subject is ma-capture natin. Kasi kung wala yan, it is totally dark. So now, dahil may light na nag-reflect kay subject, so once na pinindot natin si light box, diba? Mag-strike si image kay film, which is desensitized material na tinatawag natin. Light radiated or reflected by the subject must reach sensitized material in controlled amount. So yung light, the reflected light from the subject or yung radiated light from the subject, once na pinindot mo si camera, dapat ma-reach niya or automatic naman yan, magre-register siya and mag-strike siya to the sensitized material natin inside the camera, which is the film. Now, the exclusion of all other lights to be recorded on the sensitized material or yung film na tinatawag natin inside the light tight box, which is the camera. Bakit natin siya tinawag na light tight box? Kasi po, kailangan po ay walang kahit na anong ilaw na pumasok sa camera, walang kahit anong butas. At not unless iyan po ay pinindot mo si shutter. Yun lang yung only way para mag-expose yung loob ng camera, which is doon nakatago si film, is yung pagpindot mo kay shutter. Yun lang yung pinaka way natin paano ma-expose yung loob ni camera or ng light tight box sa liwanag. So, and that is controlled by the lens. Again, the exclusion of all lights to be recorded in the sensitized material inside the light tight box is controlled by the lens or yung camera lens natin. And then the amount of light na papasok dyan is controlled by the other parts of the camera, which is depende yan sa aperture opening natin kung gaano kalaki, gaano kaliit, same as within sa shutter speed natin. So pag-aaralan natin yan sa susunod. So now, para mas madaling maalala, the camera, diba, is a light tight box. Imagine this as the body of the camera wherein andun si film or si sensitized material sa loob. Sabi natin dapat walang kahit na anong light ang pumasok sa kanya, not unless pinindot mo si shutter. So, at this illustration, so close pa ang ating loob ng camera, wala pang pumapasok na ilaw dahil wala pa namang pinipindot na shutter. So, ito kunyari si light, ito si lens, na kung saan siya yung sa kanya magre-reflect yung light coming from the subject. And then, once na pinindot si shutter speed, si shutter, sorry. So, papasok si light and then mag-i-strike sa film na kung saan yun yung seconds lang ang tinatagal niyan na magre-react or magkakaroon ng chemical changes or chemical reaction through the action of light kay sensitized material natin, which is the film. Na kung saan dun tayo magkakaroon ng latent image na madidiscuss natin sa susunod. Again, para makaproduce ng image, kailangan si light, and the exclusion of all the lights that is coming from the subject na papasok kay camera is si lens po ang bahala doon. And the other controlling mechanism to control the amount of light, madidiscuss natin yan, which is the aperture opening. Makokontrol natin kung gaano kalaki yung bukas niya at ganun din kadaming papasok, o kung gaano kaliit yung bukas niya, syempre ganun kaunti ang papasok. Same as with the shutter speed, kung gaano kabilis yung pagbuka ng kanyang shutter, ganun din kaunti yung papasok. So kung gaano kabagal yung sarado niya at bukas, ganun kadami ang ilaw na papasok. So madidiscuss natin yan. Kailangan si light, kailangan si lens, kailangan si light tight box, which is the camera, na dapat walang makakapasok na kahit anong ilaw, pero na lang kapag pinindot si shutter, and then kailangan si sensitized material o yung tinatawag nating film na kung saan once na nag-strike si light sa kanya o yung subject sa kanya, magkakaroon tayo ng latent image o sa kanya mara-record, yung image o yung subject na kinuhanan natin. Sabi dito, the effect of light on the sensitized material is not visible of any formation of images or objects. Now, hindi porkat sinasabi kanina ni ma'am na once na nag-strike si light kay film is automatically may makikita ka na agad na visible print sa film. So sabi nga natin dito, the effect of light on sensitized material is not visible of any formation of images or object. The condition of image or object is known as latent image. Sabihin mo na nakapindot ka na kay shutter, may nakuhanan ka na ng subject, hindi ibig sabihin nun na makikita mo agad or visible agad si image dun sa negative natin na film. So, the effect could be made visible. Magiging visible lang siya when it is exposed or undergo a chemical process which is known as the development. Again, once na nag-strike si light kay film, so ibig sabihin nun, nag-react na si light, nag-register na yung image kay film, hindi agad-agad lalabas or hindi agad-agad nakikita doon yung image. Lalabas lang si image dun sa negative or dun sa film kapag nag-undergo na siya ng chemical process o yung developing process na tinatawag natin or yung development. Next, when after exposure, it is treated with a solution having reducing properties termed as the developer. So, dahil nga, hindi pa kita or hindi pa visible, di ba, si image kay negative or dun kay film natin, kailangan nating palabasin at kailangan niyang dumaan sa developing process at eto na yung tinutukoy natin dito. Kailangan niyang mailagay sa isang solution which has reducing properties, which is termed as the developer. So, dun sa first stage, meron tayong developer na tinatawag na kung saan yung exposed bromide kay light is reduced into metallic silver. So, ano yung mangyayari dyan? Si metallic silver, ibig sabihin kapag meron na tayong metallic silver, dyan nag-store o yan yung proof natin na meron tayong image na na-create or image tayong na-form. So, ang mangyayari once na nagamit na natin si developer, and then the exposed bromide na-reduce na into metallic silver, magpo-form ngayon ng image corresponding to the intensity of light to which it was exposed. Again, magkakaroon tayo ng image corresponding to the intensity of light to which it was exposed. Kasi may tinatawag tayo ng overexposed, underexposed. So, pag overexposed, too much light yung na-receive ni film. Ano mangyayari kay negative natin? Ano mangyayari sa itsura ni film na dinevelop natin? Kapag underexposed, ano kaya yung itsura ni film natin kapag dinevelop natin siya? So, malalaman niya sa mga susunod na topic. After development, the unexposed silver bromide, which is the composition of the film na nakay gelatin, is removed by a solvent. So, ibig sabihin, di ba nung una, ang purpose ng developer para yung exposed bromide ma-reduce into metallic silver na kung saan si metallic silver, ibig sabihin yan yung formed image mo. Yan na yung na-form mo na image. Again, magre-react si exposed bromide kay developer. So ngayon, dahil may exposed bromide, yung mga unexposed silver bromide, kailangan mo yan tanggalin. At ano yung process na yon? Kailangan mo siyang ma-remove using a solvent. Kasi si solvent, hindi naman niya natatanggal. Sabi nga dito, solvent does not attack the silver or yung metallic silver na na-form or yung image na na-form, but dissolve the bromide lang. So, ang purpose lang ni solvent is to dissolve those unexposed silver bromide. So, dahil ngayon, parang nililinis lang natin siya. Di ba? Na-form si image, yung mga hindi nagamit na silver bromide, ay kailangan matanggal. Parang ganun lang siya. Kailangan matanggal para totally nakita natin kung ano ba yung na-form na image. Next, and the picture is then permanent and is said to be fixed. Kumbaga, at first, dinevelop mo, lumabas si image, di ba nga at first, latent image or invisible image pa lang siya. Kapag dumaan na siya dito sa developer, may lalabas na dyan na image. Di ba? And then, kailangan mong i-remove yung mga unexposed silver bromide. At meron din diyang portion na kung saan, yan din, ang purpose niya is as a neutralizer. Kasi nga, para ma-stop yung developer natin, di ba chemical yan? Ibig sabihin, along the process, nandun pa rin si chemical. So, maluluto si film, sa halip na si metallic silver lang, yung kanyang ma-develop, yung the film as a whole, naluto na ng naluto. Pero dun sa sinasabi ko ngayon, yung pinaka-middle portion ng developing process natin, masaset din natin siya as the neutralizer o may stop niya yung further developing ng film at hindi to maluto. And then lastly, yung pinaka-fixer natin, ang purpose lang natin dyan is to fix the image. Diba kasi nga, sabi natin nung una, the film is sensitive to light. Ma'am, pag po ba dinevelop si film, tapos dinevelop natin sa darkroom, tapos nilabas natin, sabi nyo nga po, diba, siya is sensitive. So, dahil sensitive, hindi porket lumabas na si image, is yun na yung pinaka-last niya na itsura. Ganun yung mangyayari kapag hindi mo siya finix. Kasi ang purpose ng fix is para maging permanente na yung image mo. Yung na-form mo na photograph or image at hindi na siya mag-react pa sa light kapag tapos mo nang i-develop. Kasi totally, natanggal mo na yung lahat ng unexposed na silver bromide and then totally na-form na yung image mo. And then you have to fix it using the fixer para maging permanente siya. Kahit na ilabas mo pa sa light or sa labas, na expose sa light, hindi na siya mabubura or hindi na siya masisira. Okay, the picture thus obtained is a negative. Dun pa lang tayo sa portion na dinedevelop natin si film. So ngayon, na-develop mo na siya, ang tawag na natin sa kanya is the negative. Diba nung history, may negative, may positive. So ngayon, sa part na ang film ang dinedevelop natin, once na ang film is na-develop na natin, ang tawag sa kanya is the negative. O kung saan kita na natin yung image talaga. But, hindi naman siya colored na makikita natin. Kung mapapansin natin yung mga film, meron lang siyang black and white na itsura. Okay, next. In which the light parts of the object are the blackest. Okay, kung mag-picture tayo, kung ano yung pinaka-brightest part or yung pinaka-light part ng object or ng subject natin, yun yung mag-a-appear as the blackest dun sa negative film. Ganun lang naman siya. And then the dark part ng subject natin or ng object natin now appears the brightest dun sa negative film na na-develop natin. Next, it is placed in contact with another piece of sensitive material which is the photographic paper. So now, may negative ka na image. Kung gusto mong magkaroon ng positive print or positive image or positive copy of your photograph, kailangan mo siyang ilipat sa photographic paper, which is also a sensitive material. Kung gaano ka-sensitive si film, ganun din siya ka-sensitive. Which is exposed to light through the negative or yung printing na tinatawag natin or enlargement, and this gives in turn a positive image after development. So, kung meron tayong process para lumabas si image kay film na mag-turn into negative, meron din tayong process na kung saan paano natin maililipat yung image sa negative film na ganun kaliit at ililipat sa photographic paper para magkaroon tayo ng positive image. So, si negative, yung image natin na na-form kay film, si positive image, yung image na na-form natin or yung na-reproduce natin sa photographic paper. So, yun lang siya. Masyadong malawak kasi himay-himayin pa natin to, pero as an overview, ano ba yung principles of photography, ganyan po siya gumagana, or ganyan tayo nakaka-create at nakaka-develop ng isang positive image. From negative to positive, or from the latent image to negative to positive. Okay, 5 elements considered in photography. Ito yung kaninang mga napasadahan natin dun sa malawak na pinag-usapan natin about the principles of photography. Ito yung kailangan natin, in order to take a photograph and to create a photograph. Kaunahan, of course, kailangan natin ng light. Kung walang light, wala tayong makikita. Kung walang light, walang magre-reflect sa mga subject na pwede natin kuhanan. Or it is also called as the electromagnetic radiation. The source of it may be natural, either natural or artificial. Diba? Ano ba yung source ng natural natin na light? The sunlight, diba? Yung light ng moon, minsan sa night photography. The artificial light, diba? Ano ba yung source natin kapag artificial light? The fluorescent lamp, diba? The flashlights, pwede. Diba? Yung flash ng camera itself. So, source yun ng light na kailangan natin para makaproduce ng photograph. Pangalawa, the camera, of course, hindi tayo makakatake ng photograph kung wala tayong camera. A camera is a light-tight box which may be or different type, size, and use. So, marami naman tayong iba't ibang camera. So, pag-aaralan din natin yan. So, camera, in short, is a light-tight box. Bakit kailangan light-tight box? Kasi po, ang camera, yung loob ng camera, kung naandun si film, dapat walang makapasok na light sa kanya. Kasi nga, sensitive sa light si film. Once na na-expose si film kay light, pwede siyang ma-overexpose o kaya naman masira na. Kapag ginamit mo na in taking photograph or picture, pangit na yung register ng subject mo, o pangit na yung kalalabasan. Kasi ang dapat yung exposure lang ni film kay light, yung time lang na pipindutin mo si shutter para kumuha ng photograph. So yun siya, ganun siya kakomplikado. Even yung paglalagay mo ng film sa loob ng camera, dapat gawin mo yan sa dilim. Kasi once na-expose si film sa light, possible na masira nga or whatsoever, maging pangit yung result nung picture mo or nung photograph mo kasi naluto na sa liwanag. Next, the sensitized materials. Materials which are sensitive to light, ito na nga yun, such as films and photographic paper. Tatama si light, yung kanina pinapaulit-ulit natin, sa films o yung sensitized materials sa tinatawag natin. Yung sensitive sa light. Yung material that is sensitive to light, ang tawag po dun is sensitized materials. At yun po yung film natin. Yun po yung photographic paper natin. Kung gaano ka-sensitive si film, same lang din yun on how sensitive the photographic paper is. So, kung tayo ay mag-print or magde-develop ng positive image kay photographic paper, ginagawa rin to sa dilim at hindi dapat ma-expose si photographic paper kay light. Next, the chemical process. Hindi tayo makakapag-develop ng photograph kung hindi natin idadaan sa chemical process. A process in photography which involves use of chemicals, yung mga developers, fixers, yung kaninang nabanggit natin, the solvent, to develop and fix latent prints on the film and to develop the fixed image onto the photographic paper. The process involves time, di ba? Minsan, binibilangan pa yan kung gaano katagal mo ibababad doon. The temperature, kung gaano ba ka-warm or cold. The concentration, the of solution, and degree of agitation. So, pag-aaralan natin yan sa mga last part ng ating discussion. And then lastly, the subject or the object na kukuhanan mo. This refers to animate and inanimate things, person or materials which shall be the subject or object of photography. Para makakreate ka nga naman ng isang photograph, kailangan mo ng subject na kukuhanan mo. So, yun lang naman yung ibig sabihin nun. Yun yung 5 elements para makakreate ka or makaproduce ka ng isang magandang photograph or yung 5 elements considered in photography. Okay, next. Special uses of photography. The infrared photography. It is the recording of images formed by infrared radiation. Alam niyo naman yan. Because infrared radiation is invisible. Kasi po, ang visible sa ating mata is the visible light rays na tinatawag. So, si infrared po, hindi po yan nakikita ng mata natin. Some special techniques may be needed. So, in order for us na magamit si infrared for photography, kailangan natin gumamit ng mga, katulad ng mga ito, special films that are sensitive to infrared radiation. It is the recording of images formed by infrared radiation because infrared is invisible. Some special techniques may be needed. Sinabi ko nga kanina, meron tong longer wavelength than visible light o yung tinatawag nating visible light rays na nakikita ng mata natin. Yung color sa paligid natin, yan po is a visible light rays. So, si infrared, hindi po yan kita ng ating mata. Kailangan mo pang gumamit ng mga special techniques para lang magamit mo si infrared for photography. Ano ba yung use niya? O ano ba yung kinaganda ni infrared na pwede nating maging advantage sa pag-take ng isang photograph? They can penetrate haze that scatters the waves of visible light. So, di ba, kung ang gamit lang natin is the visible light or yung typical lang na klase ng lens na hindi siya or filter na tinatawag natin or film na capable lang of yung ma-detect niya lang is the visible light. Etong si infrared, kaya niyang ma-penetrate yung haze or yung scatters or yung pollution sa paligid mo nang sa ganun kapag nag-take ka ng photograph, mas malinaw at mas detalyado. So, kumpara natin dun sa sa normal lenses lang natin or dun sa mga normal films and filters natin na hindi niya kayang i-penetrate yung haze, diba? Yung dust sa paligid, yung pollution sa paligid, and even night photography, magandang gamitin si infrared. So, infrared photography can be used during nighttime or in complete darkness. Kasi nga, hindi siya limited lang dun sa visible light na kayang i-detect ng mata natin at i-detect ng isang normal camera. So, mas advanced siya, kumbaga. Ito yung karaniwang ginagamit natin sa mga yung mga pin-up shoots. Kung makikita nyo yung magagandang kuha ng camera na sobrang linaw, one of the ginamit nila na technique is using the infrared films or yung mga filters natin na kayang mas mapalinaw yung kinukuhanan nilang subject. So, infrared photography. Ano ba yung ibang uses niya? Uses of infrared in law enforcement sa ating field. Sa question document, magagamit din natin si infrared photography or the infrared rays. Even crossed out words o yung binura na natin na word sa isang papel or writings on a charred piece of paper can be read if photographs of them are taken with infrared rays. So, example nito, kung makikita nyo, di ba, sa using the naked eye, hindi natin na siya mabasa masyado. But using the infrared rays, kaya niyang ma-detect or kaya niyang mas ma-penetrate yung image or yung the subject itself using the infrared rays at nakita natin yung nakasulat sa kanya. That is on the part of the criminalistic na kung saan magamit natin siya sa QD examination. Next, aerial photography, di ba? Ma-detect natin or through the use of aerial yung mga cameras natin or yung mga satellites natin, di ba? Infrared din naman yan. So, kaya nating makita. Even the movement, madedetect natin. The body temperature or the temperature sa paligid, kaya din niyang madetect. Next, surveillance photography. So, matik na yan. Okay. Pang-apat, detection of gunshot powder burns, stains, and irregularities in cloth. For this sample, ito po is isang gunshot na powder na or residue na tumalsik sa isang I don't know if this is a paper or a cloth. Na kung saan, kung makikita nyo dito sa right side, yung mga white spots na yan po yung residue ng gunshot powder. So, through the use of infrared, kaya nating madetect kung meron ba siyang powder burns or stains o kahit man sa kahit anong cloth, magagamit natin si infrared. Detection of certain types of secret writings. Sa question document, pwede itong magamit din sa mga secret writings. Kung titingnan mo siya, di ba parang normal lang siya na painting. Pero using the infrared, mas ma-penetrate natin yung painting, mas makikita natin yung ano ba yung nasa deeper niya na layers. Tulad nito, unti-unti siyang lumalabas kung ano ba yung nakatago dun sa secret writings or paintings na yan. So, ayan yung na-form using the infrared rays or the infrared photography na meron tayo. Okay, next. Last, fabrics that appear to be similar but have been dyed differently and stained can be identified by infrared. O yung mga stains, yung mga dye na ginamit mo sa tela, possible or capable po ang infrared lights or rays para ma-detect kung meron bang stains, kung meron bang ibang dye na ginamit sa tela, and so on. Next, the ultraviolet photography or the UV photography. So, some materials will absorb UV, while others will reflect this radiation. Some have a partial reflection, and these effects can be recorded photographically, same as with the infrared, using ultraviolet radiation. So, black and white films are sensitive to most wavelength of ultraviolet. By using a filter that absorbs all visible light but passes ultraviolet rays, it is possible to make a photographic exposure with just ultraviolet. So, ano ba yung mga uses or ano rin ba yung gamit ni UV sa ating law enforcement para magets natin ano ba yung use niya or ano ba talaga si UV sa part ng photography. First, the fingerprints on multicolored surfaces. Kahit saan mo pa yan makita, di ba? Using the UV light, pwede mong makita kung meron bang latent print sa isang surface using the UV light. Tapatan mo lang siya ng ganyan, and then makikita mo yung latent fingerprint o yung invisible fingerprint na hindi agad-agad natin makikita ng mata. Body secretions such as urine, semen, and perspiration often glow when illuminated by the UV light. So, ito yung mga, kung matatry yung mag-hotel, kung meron kayong UV light na kit, kahit yung ano lang, maliit, try nyong ilawan yung sahig, try nyong ilawan yung hihigaan yung kama, na mandidiri at mandidiri kayo kasi makikita nyo kung meron bang talsik ng ihi sa sahig, kung meron bang tulo ng laway sa unan or what. Kasi nga, using the UV light, nakikita mo yung mga ganyang klase ng stains sa dingding, sa sahig, and then sa mga tela. Sabi nga dyan, body secretions, kahit yan ay laway, urine, semen, pawis mo, makikita yan pag tinutukan mo ng UV light. Next, the photographing bruises not seen by the naked eye. So, yung mga medyo gumaling na napasa o kaya yung mga bruise na hindi natin ganun agad-agad makikita, mas kaya siyang makita using the UV light or yung pag-take natin ng UV photo ng mukha or nung parts ng body na kung saan merong pasa. Pang-apat, photographing in pink invisible ink or otherwise known as the security ink. So, ito meron tayo dyan sa office. Mas maganda kung ma-experience nyo. In detecting the security ink sa mga money, nakikita natin yan using the UV light or yung mga invisible inks natin. Karaniwan nga dyan sa money or kung meron ka talagang ink na nagagamit which is invisible at nakikita lang through UV light. So, yun po yung purpose niya. Isa sa mga use ng UV is to detect yung mga invisible writing natin or yung inks natin. Katulad na nga lang tong security ink sa manis. Okay, the next, isa pa sa special uses of the photography is the photomicrography na sinasabi natin. It is the art or process of photographing minute object na kung saan ang subject natin ay yung mga bagay na maliliit, diba nga, mga minute object na kung saan hindi siya ganun kalaki kapag ang ginamit lang natin is a normal lens or kaya naman a normal type of camera. Kasi pag ginamit natin dyan si normal type of camera, hindi natin ganun makikita kung ano yung klaseng detalye na meron tayo kapag zoom in pa natin siya or kapag na-magnified pa natin siya lalo. So, again, photographing minute objects, so magnified by means of microscope. So, there is a microscope lens that is attached to the camera kung saan yun yung nag-e-enlarge kay image or nag-e-enlarge kay subject, I mean, up to 10 times up o more than 10 times pa yung laki niya. So, photomicrography is a type of photography serving purpose in photographing small items again, di ba nga, that can be used as an evidence, di ba, such as strands of hair, di ba, kung magkakaroon tayo ng examination o kaya naman yung comparison between the strands ng hair. Minsan napapagkamalan pa natin na yung strand na nakita natin is yun pala ay strand of piece of cloth lang pala. So, through the use of photomicrograph, hindi mo na kailangan magkanda duling-duling pa para tingnan lang. So, meron kang photomicrography na tinatawag para ma-zoom in mo or ma-magnify mo yung hair o yung mga, pubic hair yan and other physical evidences na sobrang liit. So, pwede mong gamitin itong process na to or yung special technique na to wherein yung mga minute objects o yung maliliit na objects, magnified mo more than pa dun sa size niya. So, next, a photograph taken through a microscope is called a photomicrograph. So, yun lang. Kung ano yung product ni photomicrography, ang tawag sa kanya is photomicrograph. So, the first known example is that of Fox Talbot who, using a solar microscope, had photographed an insect's wings magnified some 15 times. So, ito siya. Ito daw yung pinaka-first known sample natin na ginamit si photomicrography na si photomicrograph niya o yung product ng kanyang work is insect wings. So, ganyan niya na magnified. So, imagine nyo na lang kung gaano kaliit yung insektong pinicturean niya. Using the microscope na camera that is, microscope that is attached to the camera para ma-magnified natin to ng ganitong kalaki. That is photomicrography. So, ito pa yung isa ng iba niyang sample. It is a photomicrograph of immortalized human skin cells. Kung gaano siya naka-magnified, sobrang detailed. Tapeworms, dyed human hair, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. Hindi mo na kailangan pang magpaduling-duling pa. So, gumamit ka na ng microscope, ginamitan mo pa ng camera para ma-record mo. Para ma-print mo siya, and then makikita mo at mare-reproduce mo pa yung image niya mismo. Third trimester fetus of a fruit bat. So, yung itsura niya. Next, mold on a tomato. Kung titingnan natin, gano'n lang kaliit yung tuldok na may puti dun sa tomato, pero kapag siya magnified using the photomicrography, ganun yung itsura niya. Ito yung sa lahat, nakaka-amaze din. Skin, kulang sa spelling. So, yan yung itsura niya. So, sobrang parang cartoon, animated na siya. So, ganun pala. So, yun po yung gamit ni Photomicrography. Mamamagnified mo ng more than pa to its size yung mga small or minute objects natin. Next, the Macrophotography. It is the photography of a subject where the image is recorded in the same or larger than the actual size, and it is the process of obtaining a magnified photograph of small object without the use of microscope. So, yun lang yung pinagkaiba nila. Kung si photomicrography, para ma-magnified mo lang si subject mo, o para magkaroon ka ng magnified na photograph, gumagamit ka pa ng microscope lens, dito, hindi mo na kailangan ng microscope. Ang ginagamit mo dito, using a short focus lens or the macro lens, close-up lens, or a long bellow extension. Yun na yung mechanism mismo ng camera na meron tayong types of camera that is capable of zooming in the subject para naman maka-record ka or maka-take ka ng image that is larger than the actual size. So, ito yung normal natin na sa mga DSLR natin na kung saan by using the focus lens na meron tayo, by zooming in or yung mga lens natin na long bellow extension para ma-zoom in mo or makita mo mismo yung subject mo ng malapitan. So, ang tawag po dun is macrophotography. So, tulad nito. Ito, nakuhanan yan without using the microscope. Kumbaga, na-zoom in na lang siya using the lenses of the camera or yung ibang special type pa ng camera na kaya mong mapalapitan. Mailapit mo yung camera lens mo, ma-zoom in mo para ma-take mo ng ganang kalapit yung image or yung subject mo. So, katulad nito. Last is the microphotography. This is photography made on vastly reduced scale. Kung kanina, puro tayo minamagnified, sinu-zoom in, pinapalaki yung image na na-produce. Ngayon, this photography is made on vastly reduced scale to be observed using a microscope or projected using a magic lantern. So, ito naman kabaliktaran. Gagawin mo naman, ipapaliitin mo si subject mo. Pinicturean mo si ma'am, for example, ng whole body, pagkakasyahin mo sa kasing liit ng 25 na papel. So, pwede yun. Ang tawag po dun is microphotography. Tulad nito, George Shadbolt is credited with being the inventor of microphotography, and the first known example of microphotography was by John Benjamin Dancer in 1839 when he produced photographs 15 mm in diameter. So, ganyan siya kaliit. Pinicturean niya yung isang, I don't know if this is a temple or what, basta a building na kung saan, di ba, ang laki ang lawak ng scope niya. Malaki yung image dapat na na-form. Pero, kaya nating ma-reduce into small piece of it's either a metal o pwede namang paper o kahit anong object or materials na pwede natin siyang ma-reproduce. So, ang ibig sabihin lang nito, microphotography, nire-reduce mo yung kanyang scale. At nakikita mo lang siya, of course, using a microscope or projected using a lantern, a magic lantern. Again, credited dyan kay George Shadbolt. And then, itong pinaka-first known na microphotograph natin is credited to John Benjamin. One example pa is katulad nito. So, ganun siya kaliliit. So, one purpose din nito is for the storage. Mas madaling magtago ng mga na-reproduce natin na images kapag maliit natin sila pinarint or maliit natin sila ni-reproduce. So, mas madali yung storage, di ba? Ilagay mo lang sila sa isang box. Pero pag tinignan mo, chinek mo under the microscope, isa-isahin mo siya, sobrang dami nung mga nakatago mo kahit nandun lang siya sa isang cabinet na maliit. So, that is for the microphotography.